Hello and welcome to the Candlelight Podcast, where I, Mohamed Abdalla, talk about different topics, including some of my favorites, which are movies, martial arts, and philosophy. Guys, before we get to this week's quote, I have to apologize for missing an episode last week, missing a week of uploading. The reason is, and it's not an excuse, I should have uploaded if I was a proper professional. But the reason is there was a family emergency and I had to, take care of things that were, more important than this podcast. So I kind of pushed this aside, decided to skip a week. It's not really decide to skip a week. It's more like, I didn't plan for, to do the podcast. I decided to just, focus on more important things. But again, guys, remember, I even saying that I decided to focus on other things, it's still a decision. I decided not to do the podcast and upload it. I could have done it if I was a bit more professional. If I was like, I'm gonna upload every week no matter what. But it was a family emergency, and I wanted to take it, take some time. I didn't want to really spend the mental energy here and kind of like have to go through a podcast. But after going through it last week, I feel like I could have done a podcast if I was a bit more professional. Again, a family emergency that's not. No one died. No one passed away. Alhamdulillah, thank God. It was something that less dire than that, but still, something that's really stressful mentally, and physically as well. But I'm here right now. So, with that said, guys, excuse me for missing an episode, but here it is. Let's get to this week's quote. We generate fears while we sit. We overcome them by action. Said by Dr. Henry Link. So, this ties into the concept of, something similar to the concept of a paper tiger, which is, a phrase that originated from China, because Chairman Mao used to speak about his political opponents as paper tigers. And what this means is that do not fear, and of course I'm not, promoting or supporting anything that leader of the Communist Party said or did, but this is a concept. So the paper tiger, kind of like what it, as it relates to this quote, is something that grows, grows in your head, not really something that's out there. If you kind of like have something to do, but you're kind of not, you don't want to do it, whether you're afraid or too lazy, and then the idea of this task becomes bigger in your head, like, oh my God, there's no way I'm going to do all of that, after missing that much time I could have prepared for it. So the idea kind of grows in your head that it's some kind of insurmountable task that's so huge you need a Herculean effort to finish. But once you actually start to do it, once you actually take the first step, you kind of like realize it's actually, oh, this is what it is. It's not this big huge thing that I had in my head that scared me. And this is true, of course you can apply this in many different places, many different areas in your life. So you can kind of like see where this goes. I have a big speech to give tomorrow in front of my, class, for example. And if I, and I'm afraid of giving this speech because I don't know how well I do. I'm not that good at public speaking. Just an example, guys. Oh, by the way, I'm hopefully going to give a speech at my graduation 2 months from now, when I graduate from uni, finally. So, that aside, I'm going to have to... no, that aside, I'm not going to talk about that right now. So, maybe someone has to give a speech and they're kind of afraid that they're going to bomb, but they're not going to do well. So, what they kind of do is not work on it, and the idea, the fear of it grows in their heads. But then they actually go up to kind of give the speech, and this is kind of like generally the case. You kind of realize, oh, it's not that big of a deal. I just had to say the words, especially if it's a written speech. And like I had to do in my high school graduation back in 2016. I had a written speech that I had to read out. It was something like, oh boy, let's go, let's do this. And then I just kind of went out there and read it from the script that's in front of me. It wasn't too hard. So, the paper tiger is not real. The problem is not as big as you think it is. It's something that you just need to get done. Once you start working on it, it'll go away. It's not the fear of it, the awe. It's going to go away. Because It's not really as scary as you thought. It's something that's actually, doable. You just had to take the first step. And I used to have a sticker right here. You guys know from previous episodes, I used to have a sticker right here, a stick-it note that said, just take the first step. Something like that. And it just kind of, because, it's on my desk. It's my work desk. I'm working here. And sometimes I get, distracted. Sometimes I get lazy. Sometimes I don't want to do the work. It tells me, just take the first step. 10 minutes into the work, just 10 minutes. Just 10 minutes into the work, you'll not want to stop. You'll just want to continue working and working and working. You just have to, take that 10 minutes, take that first step, and then just work for 10 minutes, and then your mood will, shift. And this ties into a lot of things we talked about, such as, mood follows action. You do the action first, then the mood comes. I don't want to do the homework right now, but I have to do it, take the first step, and then I'm in the mood like 30 minutes into doing it. So it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool concept that we need to realize, because, that's how the world works, apparently. It's not that we have to have the mood first and then do it. No, you do it. Then you get into the mood. Interesting. So, that was the quote that we have. Oh, by the way, guys, I didn't mention my outfit today. As you can see, it's I'm now wearing the Kandora and the Guitar Gal. I wanted to kind of like change it up, make it a more relaxed, podcast, where I wear my, jalabi and my cap, just relax. So, let's just be trying to be relaxed this week, We didn't have a podcast last week because of, the stress that went on. And now I just kind of want to chill, just want to cruise. Don't want to push too hard on myself, get dressed up in the middle of the night because, it is midnight for me right now. And I'm finishing this right before I hop into bed and go to sleep like a baby, hopefully. Yeah, so this is, finally I'm back at least. Back in front of the microphone, in front of the computer, in front of, like, the mixer, whatever, and the camera. So I hope this podcast is actually, like, benefiting people out there somewhere in the world. Because, once it goes into YouTube, it just kind of goes wherever. I don't know who's going to watch it. And, I think I had one new subscriber who's a friend of mine, actually. So, I have 3 or 4 subscribers, 2 of them friends, close friends that I know, and one of them an American from all the way across the world. Hey, what was... shoot, I forgot your name. Elijah. I didn't forget. Sorry, Elijah. It's been a while since I've read your name in a comment somewhere, so, I kind of forgot. Excuse me for that. So, my first real subscriber. And I think I have one more, but I can't check who it is. So, it's pretty cool just sitting here, talking about whatever I want, not feeling like I have any kind of, like, things that I have to, like, consider before saying, because, it's not something that... Well, I'm not really like that anyway. I don't really have anything to say that's not appropriate in any way. I'm always like, anything I can say in front of my friends, I can say in front of my parents, because I'm just the same person in both cases. I might have different energy, a different vibe, but I do say the same things. It's not like I'm one person here, one person there, and yada yada. Two-faced people, not a fan of that. So let's actually get into some things to talk about from the list that I have here. This little list that I threw together. Some interesting things that happened this week. One of them is the opening of Expo 2020 in the UAE. Finally, I believe the plan was to do it last year, but something happened. Something happened. This little thing called a COVID pandemic. Yeah, that's what happened. And then we had to, like, push it back, just like the Olympics had to push back to 2021 as well, even though it's Olympics 2020. And now we opened it, and it was a very beautiful, magnificent, magnanimous ceremony. And wow, it was such a show. And I'm excited to see how this will, first of all, I'm excited to see how this will impact the country and how it will grow and how much, better it will be for everyone. I really hope this country becomes a beacon of, knowledge and culture and, economy, and just trade. I really hope we leave a good print in this world, UAE, my country. I really hope we do as much good as we can with the resources that we have. Alhamdulillah, thank God. Thank God we have so much, and thank God we were able to achieve so much in 50 years. The 50-year mark is coming up soon since the formation of the United Arab Emirates. It's pretty cool. So, also what I'm excited about Expo is to explore the places there. Let's see what, like, restaurants and what have you, whatever place is there. I just want to go out there and explore with friends and family, just see what they've got. So yeah, there's that. And yeah, so let's kind of switch over to YouTube. Because YouTube's an app that I use a lot, use too much, perhaps. Watch a lot of videos daily. So over the week, I do come across some really interesting videos that I really like to share with you guys. So one of them is I was actually driving my sister home from my aunt's house. She was like chilling with the cousins, and I brought her home, and I showed her some, Yusuf Islam's music. Yusuf Islam, who's better known as Cat Stevens in the West. He converted to Islam a while ago when I was before I was even born. I think. I don't know why I repeated that twice. Just wanted to make sure that it was clear. So, yeah, and my mom used to always play his music, his Islamic music. I look, I see. I'm not a singer, and his singing is better, obviously. And yeah, she used to play me his music when I was taken to school when I was a kid. Like a little kid, like 5, 6 years old. And yeah, some childhood music that was very interesting. Showed it to her. I was like, this is what I used to listen to when I was a kid. Yeah, just some cool things, bringing back some nostalgia. Showing it to my sister, who's young herself, 11 years old though, about twice my age when I listened to these tapes. Oh, by the way, we didn't listen to it on the radio. We didn't listen to it on Bluetooth or YouTube or whatever it is. We listened to it on tapes, because back then we still had tapes, back in the early 2000s. So yeah, I actually was there when DVDs existed and when tapes, tape recorders and VCRs existed. VCR was my childhood, and PlayStation 2 and everything that's just before the big boom of the internet, where everything just became digital and online. So it was really interesting. It's interesting. Oh, because the reason for that kind of is that in the Arab world, we kind of are 5 years behind, at least back then, 5 years behind the West, where they kind of had DVDs. I was still using VCRs, and then we kind of transitioned to DVDs, and then onto just internet. We had, of course, the internet since the 90s, I believe. And then ever since I was a kid, ever since I can remember, there was internet, there was Google, there was YouTube, all that, ever since 2005, 2006. So that's what I remember. That was when I first started to use computers. So it's pretty cool having been there at the very beginning. Well, not the very beginning. There was the 90s, which had dial-up internet, which I didn't have to experience. Thank God, because that seems like a horrible thing to have to experience and go through. You have to use your phone, the landline of the house's phone, and no one else can use the phone when you're using it for the internet. And yeah, thank God I didn't have to go through that, experience that. So what else do we have to talk about? Not exactly, well, this isn't exactly YouTube, but I saw a TikTok about this guy introducing his girlfriend. Shoot, I can't remember what was the name of the TikTok account. So he was, kind of introducing his girlfriend in this TikTok, and people's creativity just went wild, went crazy, and they made this funny, what is it called, duet? This is what when you kind of add a video to a video in TikTok, and it becomes a duet, and you just kind of have an additional video. Some guy added himself, it's very funny. You guys look this up. Look up TikTok girlfriend hostage, because people turned this innocent video of a guy, just introducing his girlfriend into a whole hostage situation where freaking SWAT team, the police, the president, and the Avengers were all involved somehow. Watch it, guys. It's hilarious. It's amazing. Just amazing how people's creativity could just take off that way, and they can produce such beautiful art. Anyway, I've been watching a lot of PewDiePie's videos with a fellow YouTuber Cinnamon Toast Ken, a guy who he's been friends with for a while. So when they do collabs, do videos together, you feel like these guys are friends. They have that energy between them, and just watching them react to stuff and them bouncing jokes off of each other, it's the funniest thing. It's just such a good pastime. It's so weird nowadays. This is something that the previous generation has never done. The generation before mine, they've never experienced entertainment this way, where you're watching a guy reacting to something, and that's what's you're watching a guy on YouTube reacting to something, and that's the entertainment, him reacting. And now, of course, him collabing with his friend Ken, and they're just joking the whole time. It's hilarious. It's awesome. Such an entertaining thing to watch. Yeah, I've been watching that a lot lately. But man, it's been fun with these two. I like PewDiePie. I think I've said this before. I really like him. Cool dude. So, this is something that's interesting. The World's Strongest Man competition of 2021 has concluded with the winner, the number one, the World's Strongest Man of 2021 being Tom Stoltman, a Scotsman from the Highlands. Tom and Luke Stoltman brothers, the strongest brothers in the world has ever seen. Like, these guys have a YouTube channel, and where they kind of just vlog and do their stuff, showing us some amazing feats of strength and everything. And man, it's been interesting to see this. Oh, and not to mention, Tom is actually on the autistic spectrum, if that's the right way to say it. So yeah, he has a mild form of autism, and he won the World's Strongest Man. Just goes to show, how inspiring that is. It's just goes to show. Don't limit yourself, right? Do not limit yourself. Wow, he did it. And wow, seeing these guys live their daily lives and seeing what they eat, guys. Strongmen eat at least 10,000 calories a day. It's crazy how much they eat, and it's crazy how they're built. They're huge. They're muscly and fat at the same time, but it works for them because that's what they need, where they need to be in order to become strongmen. And wow, these guys are big, and they're from the Scottish Highlands. Yeah, it's just so interesting, and it's fascinating. Especially, I saw them eating breakfast, and their breakfast is so huge. It's a bunch of plates, and one of the plates was a stack of pancakes with whipped cream and whatever they wanted on it. And it's okay. They can have that daily. That's part of their diet. And they're champion level strongmen. You can eat pancakes and become an athletic beast. That's interesting. Eat pancakes daily. It's not like the pancakes that I make. When I eat pancakes, I make my own pancakes made out of protein powder that's healthy. I'm pretty sure that's not what they're eating. But man, it's very interesting. It's very cool to see, what a human body can achieve, especially with, what they're doing, strongman stuff. All right, and the last video that I saw today was not today, just this week, was something that's the most important video perhaps I saw this week, which is titled 7 Reasons Why God is Worthy of Our Worship. And it's just a reminder, to take us back to the roots as to why we, as Muslims, worship God. And there's 7 reasons outlined and rationally detailed as to why God is worthy of our worship. He's deserving of our worship. So, by Hamza Zurtis, a man who I've talked about before on this podcast. And, a man I respect a lot and admire a lot. MashaAllah, he's done a lot for the community. A video I highly recommend if you're Muslim or not Muslim. Just check it out. Get to know how we live our lives and how we see our Creator. So, with that said, the YouTube segment is done. Let's go to MMA. In the world of MMA, wow, remember how I kept saying these past few weeks these cards have been kind of boring? Not boring as in the fights are boring. No, it doesn't have big names on the cards. There were no big names. But man, this card last weekend, UFC 266, a pay-per-view, a stacked pay-per-view at that. Guys, check out the first name I'm gonna mention, Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker is in the prelims. That's how stacked this card is. Dan Hooker versus Nasrat Hakparast. Man, that was a good fight, but man, I really wanted Nasrat to win because he went through, these two, in order, it was so ridiculous, the fact that they made weight, 155 pounds. It's mind-blowing because of how, the hurdles and the obstacles they had to go through. And wow, like Dan Hooker had to come from New Zealand, had to come to the US, didn't have enough time, but he still made the weight. And Nasrat came from, I'm not sure where, maybe Canada. I think that's where he came from because he has George St. Pierre and Faraz Zahabi in his corner. And man, I was rooting for him. He didn't make it. He didn't win, especially because his mother passed away. Allah yarhamha. May God rest her soul. She passed away recently, and he still made weight and he still fought. Sad that he didn't get the W, but man, Hooker, Dan Hooker, that guy is a beast. And speaking of him being a beast, Islam Makhachev's opponent, RDA, pulled out of the fight for UFC 267, and guess who stepped in? Dan Hooker, in 4 weeks' notice, to fight one of the top prospects at lightweight. A guy who's easily a top 10 talent and has a difficult style to fight because, wrestling it's really difficult, especially Dagestani wrestling. Man, Dan Hooker just, decided he'll take it up. Good on him. And Nasrat, man, I really hope he recovers. I really hope he does well. And I hope he's patient. Allah sabarham. May God give them patience in their hard time. Man, I really wanted him to win, especially since, what he's been through. And Faraz Zahabi's in his corner with George St. Pierre. Man. All right, so the next fight. Marlo Moraes versus Mirab Divalishvili. I hope I didn't butcher that pronunciation. So, as we all know, Marlo Moraes has been on a skid lately. He's been getting knocked out left and right. This guy just couldn't find his footing anymore. And we expected him maybe to, come on, do something this time. And he did exactly what he did in his past 3 fights. Come out strong, looking great, And then he almost beat Mirab as well. He almost beat him. He almost had him. He knocked him down like twice, I think. But then Mirab comes in to TKO him in the second round. It was a crazy comeback. Easily one of the greatest comebacks I've seen. Amazing. Good job, Mirab. But look, Marlon Moraes, he's really good at being the hammer, but he's not so good at being the nail. He gets knocked out a lot. Rob Font knocked him out last time. Corey Sandhagen knocked him out the time before that. And, of course, Henry Cejudo TKO'd him when he won the bantamweight title. Henry did, of course. And now he's knocked out yet again. What's up with Marlon? He just gasses out, or is his chin suspect? I don't know, man. He looks great in the beginning, but then he just deflates. It's so weird. And he also has a win over the current UFC champion, Aljamain Sterling, who pulled out of his fight against Piotr Jan in UFC 267, I believe. Yeah, he was supposed to fight on that card. He pulled out. Now we're gonna have to. I think Sandhagen's fighting Piotr Jan for the interim title, for who gets to unify it later on. It sucks. I think he didn't pull out. I think the state pulled him out because he wasn't fit to fight. But anyway, it sucks. We want to see who's the real champ at bantamweight. Piotr Jan messed up when he kneed Aljamain in the face. When he was down. He messed up big time. Anyway, the next fight, main card now, is Curtis Blades versus Garzinia Rosenstrike. And I'll be honest, guys, I didn't want to watch this fight because these two have been known to have somewhat boring styles. So I kind of skipped through this fight, and it was a decision, and it was a win for Curtis Blades by mostly wrestling, which is what I expected of this fight, really. And after that, we had the return of Nick Diaz, Stockton's own. So he came back to fight Robbie Lawler, and the fight was actually kind of a bit better than I expected, but worse than I had hoped, which is actually not that bad. So because Nick was coming off a long layoff where he didn't fight for 6 years. He didn't even make weight for 170. They had to move the fight up to middleweight 185, and they fought at 185. And yeah, Nick looked okay, but he definitely didn't. But he definitely looked like he didn't belong in the octagon. His time has just passed, and Robbie beat him up, and in the third round TKO'd him in a weird way. Like he kind of hit him, didn't knock him out. He just kind of hit him in a way, and Nick like was sat down awkwardly, and kind of like pulled guard, and then Robbie was like, "Nah, get up," and then he walked away, like, "Get up, get up. I'm not going to your guard and playing jiu-jitsu." And the ref told Nick to get up. Nick didn't, so the ref called it off. It was a weird ending. Like, what happened? Did Nick just quit? What happened? I don't know. It was a weird ending, but we got to see Nick Diaz back for a second at least, for a minute. But yeah, he's better off not fighting anymore. His brother Nate is fighting. Who's he fighting? Like soon? I don't know. He's fighting some top contender. Vicente Luque maybe, or someone. I don't know. But yeah, I think he's fighting soon as well. And now to go to the main event. Now this deservedly is the main event. Alexander Volkanovsky versus Brian Ortega. Guys, I didn't have high expectations for this fight. I was expecting a technical battle. Like a technical fight that's not that exciting, but but it's still, still interesting, still fascinating to see such high-level fighters, just fighting. And the first 2 rounds were that, like, technical fighting and, one getting the better of the exchanges one time, the other time. And then the third round happened, which is I think the craziest round of this year. Alexander Volkanovsky got like knocked down, and he almost got guillotined by Brian Ortega, who is a master of the guillotine. But he somehow escapes. Brian Ortega's guillotine, and then Brian was able to secure a triangle choke, but he escapes from that as well. And then he starts pummeling Brian until he can't even stand up at the end of the round anymore. Like, Brian had to have, his team carried him to put him on the stool. That's how tired he was by the end of the third round. And Herb, checked, and brought in the doctor, checked to see if he can see out of his eyes and if he's okay. And I think he should have stopped it. But at the same time, it's weird to say that because he came out in the fifth round. Brian Ortega continued on to the fifth round and was able to perform and actually won that round, kind of, or made it competitive at least. And then he lost the decision. But man, Alex, proved why he's the champ that night. He is the champ because the situations... Because on the fourth round, Brian was able to get a Darce in, and he still escaped from that. Like, these three, okay, maybe not the guillotine, but the triangle choke and the Darce, once it's locked in, it's hard to get out of. Almost impossible. But Alexander Volkanovsky, he's not human. He's built different. He doesn't need to breathe oxygen. I don't know how he didn't pass out from that guillotine. Man, that was a crazy fight. Crazy fight. Amazing featherweight title fight. Guys, we've got UFC 267, 268, and Holloway versus Rodriguez back to back to back. But in between those, but before those, we've got Paulo Costa versus Marvin Vettori, which is a good fight and a good card. But before that, we've got like two cards that are so bad that they're headlined by women fighters. Like, literally, no stars. Not even star women fighters. Like, people I don't even know. Maybe Holly Holm. But that's it. Yeah. There's not really much that's going to go on these next few weeks. Thiago Santos is fighting Johnny Walker this weekend. Let's check that out. But that's pretty much it until, Costa versus Vettori. Well, we're just going to have to, settle for now. But, hey, we've got this really good, pay-per-view just now. So let's just, enjoy that for a while. But, come on, two cards back to back with women fighters that I don't even watch WMMA. So it's like, yeah, it's not that good. Well, anyway, we've got like 267, 268, and then Holloway versus Rodriguez back to back to back. That's awesome. Like 3 weeks of bangers. Can't wait. So with that said, this was the Candlelight Podcast by yours truly, Mohamed Abdalla. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you come back for more. And once again, we generate fears while we sit. We overcome them by action. See you guys in the next one. Peace.